broadcast over at MappableUSA.com, where we put you on the map. This is Ron Costa, and today we're broadcasting remote. We are not in Vegas, or at least I'm not. I'm out in New York City and enjoying the New York lifestyle. But today, I got to tell you, folks, we talk about crowdfunding all the time, and one of our previous guests talked about what was sexy in terms of raising money, and they mentioned that technology was the field that a lot of people are getting into from a real sexy kind of basis. So today we get into that a little bit, and before we do, let's introduce Vicky Hutchmala from the World Token Market. Vicky, how are you?
I'm great today, Ron. Excellent day in Vegas. Nice and hot, just like we like it. And we have a really interesting guest on our podcast today. Going to talk about raising capital, how he did it, and he has a very interesting product that I think everybody will like.
Absolutely. So let's bring him on right now. Folks, meet Bill Lee. Bill Lee is the chairman over at Knightscope. Bill, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm glad this is actually a podcast because I'm on my 146th day without a haircut. So happy to be with you.
Yeah, that's why we don't have video.
Yeah, and you probably have your pajamas on, and that's good.
No, actually, I'm actually in the office today because I've got a video interview next, so didn't want to do that one in the pajamas, so we're actually here.
Absolutely, and Bill, I know that I'm really psyched that you took the time to come on our podcast because I know you're really busy. You've been doing podcasts and interviews. I saw the one you did with the Shark Tank guy, Mr. Wonderful, right? That was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was actually very kind and gracious, very interested in what we're doing, both from a capital raise standpoint and the technology in itself.
Yeah. So let's get into that a little bit. First, before we get into the whole, what the company does, let's talk about you a little bit. Can you explain your background a little bit and how you got involved in this?
Sure. By way of introduction, my name is William Santana Lee. I'm the chairman and CEO of Knightscope. We're a developer of autonomous security robots. My background, I'm a former Ford Motor Company executive. I spent 10 years there, 12 different jobs, 4 different continents, every functional area. I'll date myself here. Worked on the escort tracer team with Mazda in Japan. I worked on the 6.8 liter V10. I was the vehicle engineer for the Lincoln Mark 8. Worked for Ford of India, Ford of Europe, and Ford of Brazil. My second to last job, I was director of mergers and acquisitions when we were running around buying everything. And my last job, ill-advised, I was an entrepreneur. Convinced the board of directors to release $250,000 to me to do a roll-up in the used parts industry. So I bought 22 companies in 11 months, had about 600 employees, doing about $150 million in sales, and that basically is what gave me the entrepreneurial bug.
Yeah, that's great. And what you guys are doing right now is phenomenal. I went to your website the other day and checked you guys out. It's crazy interesting. So why don't you tell everybody what Knightscope does?
Sure. We find ourselves in a very unique set of circumstances. So the company's 7 years old. It's a unique combination of autonomous self-driving technology, robotics, and artificial intelligence to see if we can provide our 1 million law enforcement officers and professionals and 1 million security guards really smart eyes and ears for them to do their jobs much more effectively. We have this slightly grandiose long-term ambition to see if we can make the United States of America the safest country in the world. Never thinking that we would be scaling up our company in the middle of a pandemic. Not to be funny about it, but robots are immune, and now folks are starting to realize that remote monitoring is going to become the norm. And now literally you have the entire nation focused on reimagining public safety. So certainly interesting times, to say the least.
Well, yeah, especially for you because it's like the world has dropped right into your lap, Bill, with what you're doing. I find it fascinating that you have robots that act as security robots for what kind of companies or applications do they work for? It's like a foreign concept to me. So explain what kind of companies would use them.
So our clients, so we hold contracts across 5 time zones in the U.S. We have operated over 1 million hours. Our clients are anything from 10 of the Fortune 1000 major corporations to malls, schools. We've got several law enforcement agencies, a couple of municipalities. We just landed our first federal government contract. We're coming up on our 5th hospital, logistics facilities, manufacturing plants. Basically anywhere indoors or outdoors you might see a security guard and officer is a unique application and opportunity for us.
I just think it's fascinating, and the design of it, it's kind of like a little R2D2 looking appliance kind of thing that obviously it well, I went to the photo gallery and looked at them. I'm sorry. I went to the photo gallery and looked at them, and they kind of look little, but I'm sure they're very heavy and first thing I thought was, well, couldn't somebody just steal it and take it home and play with it? But then I thought it probably weighs quite heavy, and nobody would try that without the robot kind of yelling, squeaking, and screaming to let everybody know what was happening.
Yeah, they're actually 5 foot tall, 400 pounds. It takes a few people to try to do that, and I would caution everyone listening not to do that because it's a felony. All the evidence to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, we have and we will. We've had a number of folks spend the evening in jail. So similar to you wouldn't want to mess with a law enforcement vehicle or a police motorcycle, you should leave the security robot alone.
Absolutely.
No question. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So these robots are mobile. They move around.
Yeah, walking speed. So over $80 billion has been invested in self-driving autonomous technology. There's 200 companies working on it. I believe Knightscope's literally the only company in the world operating 24/7, 365 across an entire nation, fully autonomous without any human intervention. And they today run, walking speed, let's say 1 mile to 3 miles an hour, and then over time we'll, start increasing both the speed and the size of the machines that we offer to our clients.
Right,
so
and their job. Go on, Vicki.
Well, I was just going to say, so if they observe something, some kind of criminal activity or activity that isn't within their program, that's what should be happening, what happens? Do they contact the local police department? What happens after they notice something that's not right?
Everyone focuses on the shiny objects, which are all the machines, but the secret sauce is actually on the back-end software. We provide our clients a browser-based user interface so they have direct access to the over 90 terabytes of data that the machines generate per annum. And there they can speak through the machine as if it's a mobile PA system. They can issue broadcast commands. They can review footage. There's 360-degree eye-level HD cameras on them. We can do a thermal scan. We can read 1,200 license plates a minute. We can detect a person or the person. And once that alert or detection happens, depending on what the client's looking for, we'll put that notification on that user interface, or it could be an email, it could be a text or a phone call, whatever the client actually wants. And we provide the tools. We are not the guarding company. So most of our clients have their own security operations center with 24/7 staff, or it's literally 911 dispatch in the police department utilizing the technology for them to augment their capabilities and keep our officers and security guards safe.
Oh, and so they keep a record of exactly what happened, so after the fact, then it becomes easier for the police or whatever policing department can then locate whoever the perpetrator is and take it to justice.
Yes, and all the evidence that we gather is admissible in court.
Is this something that police departments can use? Are they using them?
Yes, we've got a handful of law enforcement agencies that are clients of ours. So, for example, let's say you're a smaller city in, the big parts of Los Angeles, and there's, in one particular case, the Huntington Park Police Department. They have a very large park in the middle of the city, and it's if you wanted to patrol there 24/7, you probably need 2 officers, and you can't triple shift humans, so you actually need 8 officers to cover 24/7 in that park. The city literally doesn't have the resources to be monitoring that location and dedicating that amount of human power there. So they hired us to patrol the park, and then the dispatch folks can monitor what's going on and address any incidents. And actually the physical deterrence causes a lot of the negative behavior to go down. So if you go to Knightscope.com/crime, you can see the actual results of our capabilities to be able to reduce crime, effectively cut it in half.
Wow. And plus, I would assume they're a lot less expensive than having an actual police officer to use these what do you call them?
Autonomous security robots, ASRs. And so ASR. Maybe for the benefit, an off-duty law enforcement officer armed, and this varies widely across the country, but just for discussion purposes, around $85 an hour. An unarmed guard, usually somewhere between $15 to $35 an hour, and mind you, that's what the client pays, not necessarily what the guard gets paid. We offer our technology in a machine-as-a-service business model at an effective price of $4 to $11 an hour, which makes it readily accessible and economically viable for municipalities, schools, law enforcement agencies, as we discussed, major corporations, hospitals, etc.
So nobody actually purchases one of your robots. They just kind of use them. You kind of source them out.
It's actually an all-inclusive subscription service, so everything's included. It's not a rental. It's not a lease. So we provide the hardware, the software, 24/7 support, maintenance service. Someone takes a bat to it, it's on us. Basically, you're hiring us to provide you some tools and capabilities. And why investors have gotten interested in what we're doing is the machine-as-a-service business model can be quite lucrative while providing clients with really great value. So looking at it from an investor's perspective, our contracts generate on the order of $70,000 to $100,000 of revenue per annum per machine.
Oh my God!
Today we physically build the machines here in Silicon Valley, our own team, made in the USA, and it costs me today, without any efficiencies, around $60,000 to build a machine. So the business model is to recover the cost of the machine in the first calendar year. The second, third, fourth, fifth year, you're just printing money, but obviously you need to continue to provide the maintenance and support. So we allocate a good amount of funds to be able to do that. But basically over a 5-year period, each machine should on the order of deliver about $250,000 of profit per machine, again, over that 5-year period. So that's another way to look at it is, another way to think about it is we have luxury automotive per unit economics, meaning you're buying a new Tesla or a new Mercedes-Benz every year, but our margins look more like a software as a service company.
Wow.
Yeah, those are fantastic numbers. Bill, how often do these robots need recharging? How do they get the power?
Great question. So they autonomously recharge on their own. I want to think of them a little bit more like the opposite of an electric car. So you drive your electric car all day long, then it's sitting in the garage all night long recharging. That is not what our clients need. They need 24/7 uptime. So how do you deliver 24/7 and still get a charge? So the way we do it is we patrol for about 2.5 hours, and then the machine will autonomously find its docking station and charge there for about 20 minutes. We ask our clients to put that docking station at a location where a guard would normally be stationed, or there's an ingress-egress location for either humans or vehicles. And so the machine is still operating while it's charging. It's just not moving at that time. And that's how we offer and are able to for 24/7.
Yeah, it's a fantastic business model. It sounds like there's great profit potential. Certainly there's a huge need for it. So that's all really great. Now, you guys have been doing a couple of crowdfunding raises, too. I know you hate the word crowdfunding. Maybe we could start with that. Why is crowdfunding such a bad word?
Crowdfunding drives me crazy. So what happens when a company files an S1 to do an IPO? You get Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, UBS, Jeffries, and all these folks running around trying to get every Tom, Dick, and Harry to buy the stock within a 2-week roadshow period. That sounds to me like crowdfunding, no? You're just doing one global equity crowdfunding exercise. But somehow, if a company opts to take much more efficient and thoughtful capital in the private market, it's in some cases looked down upon that you went the crowdfunding route, as if the VC route is the smart money. And in our case, name me the fund that's fluent in law enforcement, physical security, robotics, and hardware with a track record, and we should pay a premium for that capital. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and entrepreneurs and founders need to kind of understand that there are other sources of capital, and as a fiduciary for your organization or as an officer of your company, you have the obligation to seek the lowest cost of capital and the right kind of capital for your kind of business. A tiny percentage of companies should ever be seeking, kind of venture capital money. And so where I get annoyed is, so a private company can now do a public offering and remain private based on what changes the Securities and Exchange Commission had enacted back in 2015, but that's different than bankers running around doing the same, with the only difference being that you're listed on a national exchange after the transaction. To me, it's just really annoying.
Well,
it makes sense.
That's understandable. Yes. I agree with you as you explained it like that. Kind of like the difference between Bitcoin and tokens. Bitcoin has a connotation that's not so good, but tokens can take you any place on the blockchain. It's kind of the same thing. And you're absolutely right. An entrepreneur needs to find the best way to raise capital, and doing that just assures the investor that this is a company that you want to invest in, because they're taking a broad aspect of capital raising instead of one little niche. So absolutely, that's a great explanation of why. Let's not ever say crowdfunding again, Ron.
I think the other important point to make is, as I stated, we have this kind of crazy mission to see if we can make the United States of America the safest country in the world. You are not going to do that without having a good portion of society involved, engaged, and inspired to make that change. And believe it or not, Knightscope's actually now backed by over 10,000 investors, family offices, accelerators, and 4 major corporations. And with that amount of people financially aligned to make sure that Knightscope is successful, brings along a bunch of primary, secondary, and tertiary benefits to the company that one would otherwise not have from a quote-unquote normal institutional investor.
Right, and and that's why we do these podcasts and our various websites, is because we want to educate people. Every industry has its own language and its own way of describing itself, and we like to educate people out there that there's alternatives, and that before you act, you should know the big picture. You should know everything about what it is that you're doing, so that you can make an informed decision that leads you into the second stage. And exactly. What you just described is exactly why we do these podcasts and why our websites are full of information, so that you can have that, make that educated decision.
It's actually education on both sides of the coin here. It's the issuers or the companies or the founders or the entrepreneurs or the CFOs that don't understand that this is possible. And then it's also the retail investors that also don't understand that this is possible. It's not quote-unquote normal to go online and buy shares in a private company, right? That's not – I speak at tons of conferences and do plenty of interviews, and including in the financial media, and I've spoken to, hundreds if not thousands of, CFOs who don't understand what this is. And I think part of that is exactly what you said. It's education. And I'm hopeful that one day someone like a TD Ameritrade or an E-Trade or Fidelity will pick up this opportunity to bring it to be a bit more mainstream. Now that it's been 5 years and the kinks have gotten kind of worked out, to actually make it more widely available, as opposed to issuers having to spend an ungodly amount of time educating everyone.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right, and there's always those few people who are the risk takers who lead the charge and take the world to a different place, where most everybody else likes to stay in their comfort zone, and this is how we used to do it, this is how we've always done it, so this is how we're going to do it, and they're not open to new possibilities. And good or bad, new possibilities will always lead you someplace better.
I'll make it funnier for you. So I'm here in the middle of Silicon Valley, where our headquarters is based in Mountain View, and Google's down the street, Facebook's up the street, and Apple's down the street, and so is Cisco. And what I find hilarious is about $100 billion gets dumped into startups every year. Probably 80+% of it into something software related, maybe 5-10% in biotech, and then other. And what I find hilarious is you got $100 billion getting dumped into startups every year. There's 20,000 active startups here in Silicon Valley, and everyone is trying to disrupt something, right? Let's change education. Let's change the government. Let's change financial institutions. Let's change the media. Let's change basically shopping, groceries, everything that you can name. Whoa. You want to change the fundraising strategy and plan? Oh, I don't know about that. Just leave that. I really need my 2 and 20 on my fund, and I really don't want to be talking about that publicly. Can we move on to the next subject? And I just find it so disingenuous. Is you ask entrepreneurs to go turn everything upside down, but the minute you change the fundraising process, it's like, hey, well, why are you doing that? What's the benefit of doing that? And just not in line with what founders really need, which is help and support, because startups are really hard. 95% of startups fail. So you're going to need a lot of help to get something off the ground. And part of it is having a thoughtful capital structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely correct.
Yeah, so Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you've been doing the capital raising at this point? Your, what vehicles are you using, or how are you raising money?
Oh, no, you just create a website. It's like an ATM machine, and the money just gets downloaded from the cloud just real quick. It's pretty easy.
There you go. It's a simple formula, right?
Yeah, it's real simple. So we've prior raised $40 million to build Knightscope over the last 7 years, and we did that in several financings. One of them, the largest one, was back in 2017. We did our first Regulation A+. We're trying to raise $20 million, and we ended up way oversubscribed at $26 million. We closed, I think, over 5,500 investors or so at that time, and that gave us the capital to start improving the technology and start the beginnings of scaling up. And recently we're on raising capital through our second Reg A+, which is a little unusual, I'll say. I think a lot of folks that did their first Reg A+ thought, oh, I raised money, quote unquote, publicly. I'm ready to go on a national exchange and went off and did a direct listing, and things didn't turn out all that well. And so we opted not to do that. The company was at that time not ready for a public listing on a national exchange. So we kind of kept at it, and now we're raising up to, doesn't have to be the whole thing, but up to $50 million to grow the company up to profitability. And if you go to securityrobot.com, you can learn all about it, but you only have until July 20th, 2020 to participate. You can learn everything there again at securityrobot.com.
Wow, so there's not a whole lot of time on that. So securityrobot.com is a website that you guys created solely for the purpose of investors signing up and getting into this whole thing. You're not putting this on any kind of portal or any investment portal, are you?
That's a landing page for folks to watch the first video and just kind of quickly understand if this makes sense for them or not. Do they believe that AI, self-driving technology, autonomous technology, and robotics are going to change the world in the next decade or two? Yes or no? Do you believe that the market for crime will ever collapse? And if you had a company that had a recurring revenue business model for a recurring societal problem, would that be interesting? And has this company have a track record of delivering technology and doing what they said they were going to go do? And if those all kind of check the box and you see that's interesting, you just click the invest button there, and that'll take you to our broker-dealer who can process the transaction.
Interesting, yeah. And the players in your Reg A, when you're in your first one, let's say, did you have everybody in place? Did you have a securities lawyer that you had, or was it a tough thing to get through and actually get the approval from the SEC?
So I guess founders and entrepreneurs have this perception or perceive that they're reckless and they run around like crazy and everything, trying to get kind of change the world. I actually doubled down and did a complete opposite. We had actually two sets of legal counsel when we filed the first one in 2016, because no one had done it before. We had our corporate counsel with Wilson Sonsini and as an additional securities counsel that is pretty fluent in Regulation A+. And I ended up being the, what you want to call it, stickler. And we took months to, get everything prepared, filed it with the SEC, and then we're sitting there sweating, wondering, how many comments are we going to get and how much more work is going to. And so we ticked and tied everything and wordsmithed everything and make sure everything was perfect. And I'm glad we did it because the only comment that we got in December of 2016 from the SEC was that, hey, you forgot to put the price. And that was the only comment. We did a good job, and I strongly encourage entrepreneurs and founders that are looking to do something like this to do the work and do it properly and carefully. It's an interesting stepping stone to be similar to a publicly traded company, and it can be very brutal if you don't do the work properly.
Well, that's in any case. You always have to do your homework so you do it right the first time instead of having to do it 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, Bill, how much effort and time did you spend on marketing before or during the process of your application?
So you're relating marketing to investor relations type of marketing as opposed to marketing for the company's own revenue?
Well,
yes.
Yeah, because marketing so that people knew what you were doing so that by the time you had your approval, people already knew what you were doing and were ready to invest without you having to start marketing after the fact. Did you do marketing beforehand?
Yeah, we did some of the testing the waters. Obviously, in the 2015-16 time frame, a lot of folks hadn't done this before, so there was an option to do a TTW while you're waiting for the regulatory approval. Yeah, we did some of that, but I don't know. I guess mixed bag. In some cases, we had some pileup of interest, and then a bunch of it's kind of garbage. So until you've got a live transaction, it kind of doesn't really matter. And also, I also want to caution, it depends on how much money you're raising, right? Most of the folks raising capital are doing tiny Reg CF kind of stuff, $1 million, or are raising $5, $10, $15 million. Very few are, raising 20, 25, 30, $50 million type of things. So you kind of need to be thoughtful as to how you're going to go about it. It also is important to note what type of company and your end users might be. So if you're a business-to-consumer type of company and you've got a huge fan base or customer base or what have you, that's a different animal and unique than someone like us. I mean, we're effectively a business-to-business and business-to-government type of operation, and we don't, it's not like we have millions of fans on Instagram or something like that. So you kind of need to really think through the whole thing. And in a lot of cases, you really have to almost treat it like a product, like you're marketing a security, just like you would be marketing your own technology. You need to find the right customers at the right time with the right message and the right price to get them interested in what you're doing.
So you focus more on your end user, identified the end user, focused on them, and then were able to start your marketing as soon as you were approved and ready to go, as opposed to just letting everybody know so that anybody and everybody could invest right away. That makes sense.
A little bit of both. We had, the company operating, so that helped. And it's not normal to see robots running around. So we got some social media on there. But again, I just want to caution the founders on the call that it's not, I'm going to put up a website and I'm going to have, Republic or Seed Invest or Start Engine or whoever is just going to, turn it on and the money's just going to show up. You've got to perform. You're
no doubt
basically got to
yes.
roadshow, and you got to be making progress. You got to be communicating. You got to be landing deals. You got to be signing contracts. You got to be recruiting, and you got to instill confidence that folks want to be part of your dream.
That's true, exactly. I got a couple more questions before we close this out. One is on your Reg A. Was that was a Tier 2 deal that you did?
Both are Tier 2, yes.
Well, okay. So, do you have any plans in the future of actually, taking this to an exchange, to a stock market or NASDAQ or something like that?
So, as an officer of the company, I can't legally promise a direct listing, public listing, or an IPO. But
sure.
If you go to security.com, there is an FAQ at the bottom that answers that question. We have reserved our ticker symbol on NASDAQ. It's going to be KSCP.
Yeah. Okay. This is awesome. Like I said, I was the other night I was watching a show called Black Mirror that I'm kind of getting into on Netflix. It's about this whole it's like the Twilight Zone with technology. And then all of a sudden I go to the website there and I'm looking at these robots. I'm like, this is incredible. This is a great concept. I love what you guys are doing, and I certainly wish you all luck in the world on this as well. We talked about some of your websites before. If someone wants to get more information on this, where's the best place that they should go? Is that the only website that we mentioned before, or do you have anything else?
That's the best one, just to keep people focused. Go to securityrobot.com. If you're interested and want to learn more and actually want to buy shares, just click the invest button that's there in the lower left. On the lower right is a blue icon. That's an instant messaging button. That is not a bot. That is the CEO, me, answering questions 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time.
Unbelievable. That's great.
And I've probably answered more than 5,000 questions already, and I'm sure there's going to be a few thousand more here as we wrap things up. But without our investors, we can't build what we've built, and we can't grow. So I have to make myself available. And in a lot of cases, people have genuine, thoughtful questions, or just need some help, or worried about something. I'm happy to be responsive. Sometimes we do get flooded. So if I'm 2 minutes late to answer your question, give me a little space, or like I'm doing this call right now and I'm scared to open up the messaging thing when I end this thing because I know it's going to be flooded. And, why aren't you answering my question? As well, talking to some new friends here on this podcast. But just visit us at securirobot.com, and you got till July 20th.
There you go. Okay, well, maybe Vicki has question 5001. Do you have anything left over that you need to ask?
I have one question for you, Bill. What do you think about raising capital through blockchain and tokenization?
Two comments. First comment is I'm not fluent in either. So when I don't know something, I just say I don't know. Second, anytime there's SEC and subpoena involved, I don't want to be anywhere near that. This already, from a Regulation A+ standpoint, is complicated. The SEC still understanding how to do these things. The issuers are as well as the investors. The last thing I think I need to be doing is adding more risk to a transaction.
Yeah, no one likes to add additional risk to anything, but yeah, I'm really psyched that you took the time out to talk to our audience today, Bill. I know you got a lot of questions, I'm sure, waiting for you after this is over. But thank you so much for being on the show. It really was great. And your the vision of what you're doing, I think is great. So I thank you once again.
An excellent product, and we wish you every good luck, Bill.
Thank you so much, and everyone, please be safe out there.
Great. Folks out there, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast, where we put you on the map at mappableusa.com. If you go to that website, scroll down the homepage, you'll see all these syndication sources. You'll pick the one you like best, so you'll never miss another show. If you want to be a guest on the show like Bill was today, there's a guest tab there. Fill that out, and we'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. If you like what you heard today, send us an email, info@mappableusa.com, or just fill out a comment on the page you're listening to this on right now. We really appreciate it. So everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you next time on a Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.